Hello, welcome back. This is we're doing Sunday school lessons. This is Hebrews 7:13, and it's titled "And High Priest of Good Things to Come." So, one of the things I haven't pointed out in about these lessons that are pretty much in every single lesson I thought I'd point out now is the encouragement in the lesson to record your thoughts, your views on the lesson, that sort of thing. To a certain extent, yes, me doing these videos is my way of recording my own thoughts and feelings about the lessons, but it's also, put out there so that really anyone who wants to can find them and they can figure out what they think and what they mean. So, getting into the lesson. So first and foremost, the lesson makes a distinct difference between the Melchizedek and the Levitical or Aaronic priesthood. So what that is, what they mean. So, I'm gonna go back. Feels like I've mentioned this and talked about this a bit in the previous lesson. So if I'm repeating myself, please forgive me. But when Moses was up on Mount Sinai, I believe it was Sinai, and communing with the Lord for 30 days, he brought down the higher law. Essentially, the Melchizedek priesthood was given to him, and he brought it down to share amongst the children of Israel. And it was only when he came back down and discovered them, already moving on to the next new thing, in this case, a golden calf to worship, that he broke that law, went back and got a much simpler law for people to follow, and that did include the Levitical or the Aaronic priesthood, the priesthood that Aaron held. Aaron, Moses' brother, held. And he brought it down. Well, when Christ returned, he brought back the Melchizedek priesthood, or the higher law that was to be given to man. And, what you may ask, why does this make a difference? The law, if you have one priesthood, why is one priesthood better than the other, or why is one priesthood higher than the other? Better is kind of the wrong term, so and it's down to responsibilities. So with the Melchizedek priesthood, it is basically the priesthood it has higher responsibilities, has more more responsibilities, more consequences for misuse, and more positive consequences for proper use of it. It's the difference between being a child and being an adult. When you're a child, there are very definite consequences, but they pale when in comparison to the consequences you may have as an adult. So for example, you could be, just completely stressed out over a test, and, the consequences of not studying for a test could be horrific for you. Then it could affect your entire future, and you're just be up in a panic. But when you become an adult, it's more consequential how much, if you don't have a job and you have no way of making money, then the consequences of that could very well be that you can't feed yourself. So that's kind of the difference. Different level of responsibility, different level of consequences, both good and bad, in them. And it is kind of incumbent upon people who've been presented with a higher law to behave in a higher level, higher priesthood, higher responsibility. So that's the difference between the two, and really, at least for members of my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that is very much it's a very big part of our lives, the Melchizedek priesthood, and is used quite often to bless our lives. From a priesthood holder, worthy priesthood holder giving blessings, to one that oversees the working of the church, of the day-to-day basis of the church, and really we're blessed in numerous ways by this priesthood. And so it is a great thing for us to have in our lives. And the lesson actually asks a question and encourages people who have been blessed by the Melchizedek priesthood to kind of list their own blessings, their own, basically how the benefits that they've had to their lives because of this blessing of this blessing of the priesthood. I feel I'm a bit stammery today, so please forgive me if I'm going over the same points over and over again, or repeating the same word over and over and over and over again. So, so we'll proceed with the lesson. So, basically, this is actually a really interesting part of the lesson. It's something that Paul brought up a bit in Hebrews. This is more Hebrews 9 and 10 that this is discussed, but it's the entire Levitical law, the law that the Jews lived by, Mosaic law, the Levitical, however you want to phrase it, all of these ordinances and so on pointed to Jesus Christ. And specifically, one of the things that's pointed to in the lesson is the yearly holiday, at least in these times, the yearly holiday called the Day of Atonement, whereas the high priest entered the holiest place, the Holy of Holies, and in the Jerusalem temple, and sacrificed a goat, or actually I think just a goat, a firstborn goat, to atone for the sins. And that was essentially a I suppose metaphor would probably be the right word. It was a semblance of the sacrifice of Christ that had just occurred. So everything in the Judaic law, all Mosaic laws, the ordinances, all of those pointed to the coming of Jesus Christ. And yeah, it's, I don't know, just for me, that's always been such an amazing thing, that just there's so many aspects of it, so many things that pointed to the coming of Christ and the ultimate sacrifice of Christ for the sins of the world, to atone for all of us. It's amazing to me, and it's an incredible, the I just have no words for the atonement. It's truly an incredible thing that has blessed me in more ways than I can, imagine or list or even talk about. So, one of the things that comes up in Hebrews 11 is Hebrews 11 has a pretty interesting definition of faith. And the lesson itself, I'm going to, do a quick pan around and read from the lesson. But the lesson, it quotes a woman named Anne C. Pingree, I apologize, who was formerly a member of the Relief Society General Presidency. The Relief Society is the women's organization that my church has. It's actually the oldest women's organization in, I believe, the entire world, certainly the United States. But regardless, she used to be part of the presidency that ran this. And she gave this definition, which she drew on the language from Hebrews 11. She said, "Faith, the spiritual ability to be persuaded of promises that are seen afar off, but that may not be attained in this life, is a sure measure of those who truly believe." So, one of the things that the lesson actually encourages us to do at this point is to kind of look, read, study, as many scriptures as we can, and kind of come up with our own definition of what faith is, and what faith is personally to us. I've always... Something I came up with a while ago, and it's one of those things where you have to wonder, did somebody tell me this and I remembered, and I didn't remember being told about it, or did this actually come up to me? Because it seems like a little too wise for me to have come up with this on my own. But my little definition of faith is basically, when you believe in you can believe in something all you want. You can see something, touch it, feel it. You believe in it. So, for example, I believe in, say, a chair. There's a chair right over there. I believe in it. It exists. I can see it. I can touch it. I believe in the chair. However, there is a massive difference between believing in it that a chair exists, and trusting that the chair itself will hold your weight when you sit on it. And for me, that metaphor for me is really the definition of faith. It's this, profound trust in something. It goes far beyond belief. Belief could be, you know, anyone can believe, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have faith in what you believe in. So just as an example that was kind of used as a joke when I was a kid, it's like I believe in the government, I just don't have faith in the government. That was kind of a joke when I was a kid, but it is kind of like that. You can believe in something, but you won't necessarily, have faith in it. You won't trust it to hold your weight. You won't trust it with your life. You won't trust it with much of anything. It's when you move beyond merely believing in something that you have this faith, this absolute trust, essentially in God, that God will not let you down, that God will lead you where you need to go. And, it's, you kind of have to, you go back to that one scripture that says we have to become like little children. And ultimately, we have to have that level of faith, the same faith that, a child will have when they, I've seen children do some pretty crazy things, like just jumping and expecting someone to catch them, or, climbing into, insane by their definition heights. Like, if you're higher than I am tall, then you're only 2 years old, you're up there pretty high. But children, toddlers, babies all have this profound trust that you will be there to help them and to keep them from hurting themselves. And that's the level of faith we have to have in God. And it's not an easy thing. We have to have absolute trust in God, the same way that a child will have trust in the people watching them. And it's very difficult, very hard to do. So one of the things, I'm going to put this out there. This is one of the things that is suggested at the end of the lesson, which is that this is meant to be taught in families, so it suggests family members, but I imagine friends, people you can do this as well with it. You can encourage them to share these spiritual moments that they've had where they felt illuminated with the truth. And it asks the question, and I'm going to read this directly again, which is, how can these experiences help us cast not away, therefore, our confidence in times of trial or doubt? That's from Hebrews 10:32 through 36. So, and that is a very good question, because there are times when life gets pretty darned rough. I think, no matter who you are, no matter what your experience is, there's going to be some times in your life that are a bit rough, a bit, not pleasant. And it's very easy to kind of disregard God in those times. To just say, well, I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and nothing happened, and why is my life so hard? Just forget this. I'll just do it myself. And, that it's very easy to do that. So how do we not cast God away at these times? How do we not do that? And I think, as the lesson says, remembering our experiences where we felt illuminated, where we felt privileged and loved by the Spirit, is one of those things that can help us stay on the straight and narrow. And it can be very difficult when we're going through a really rough patch to kind of think back to those memories, because that was then, this is now, and we're not doing so well at the moment. So yeah, like the lesson says, share these experiences you've had with others. Ask others to share their experiences with you. That way you can, you have more to draw upon to remember these events, when things go wrong, you have more stories, more illumination to help guide you through the hard times. And yeah, that's kind of the point of that one. And so I'm gonna leave the lesson there for now. Your homework is to kind of think back to times you felt illuminated, and think about sharing it with others if you have no one to share it. If you have no one to share it with or no one to go over these lessons with, um, you can think back on it and do what you can. But if you can in any way share lessons with people, share your experiences with people, and see how that helps. And yeah, see that how that helps you, and kind of be there to share your experiences to be helpful to other people. And that's the lesson for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe it if you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.